My name is Jonathan Parks, and welcome to Jonathan's Nature Crafts. I must inform you that I do not live in this house by myself, but live here with other people. Sometimes other members of the household may have to walk through areas where I might be recording with other family members on the phone. If you hear any noise like that, please feel free to disregard. We are doing our best to get noise canceling equipment, which may at least keep you from hearing exactly what is being said. Thank you for considering. As you all might see, things have kind of changed a little bit for me sensory wise due to the weather conditions, which is kind of the reason I've done a little shaving here and I'm letting this much grow right now, and that's kind of why you'll see I'm kind of looking a little different. But this was a moment I wanted to come on here to introduce to you all a project I'm going to work on for probably the next video, and I will show you all one little thing here I have. This is like an angel that would be kind of like the angel of the Lord or the risen Christ, which is the reason why I've carved a couple of these, and this one right here goes with my display of Nebuchadnezzar and the Hebrew children and the fiery furnace, and I also have another one I made that goes with Daniel in the lion's den. I can't remember right off exactly which set I took this one out of, but I think I mentioned the right set that it's in. And I will say first of all that to begin with, there's this book, Carving the Risen Christ, that I have had for a long time out of a place called Manny's Woodworker's Place that used to be around a long time ago, where I purchased the book thinking I was going to try to learn to carve some of this stuff. And when you go through the book, you'll notice that there's a lot of steps, and it's really difficult to carve this whole thing that's here in the front picture. And I've looked at a lot of the steps, and it is just kind of a lot of complicated work, requires probably a whole lot more tools than I have and am ready to use. But I'll tell you all how this has kind of worked out. And there was this, to begin with, this pattern that shows up in the book. I'll show the pattern here when I find it, and it was like, probably I'd say, if I see it in here, it was like this, and there's just a lot of extra work even to that, and it doesn't always come out in every even way. It kind of has differences on the sides and the work for the sash. But what I've done is I've cut the pattern out, and I've kind of like folded the original copy in half and kind of cut it out so the sides would be equal, even though it does cut off part of one sleeve and go up above that same sleeve on one side. So that's what I've done here. And of course, when I carved this one and the other one, I used certain measurements, but since it's been a few years since I carved them, I had to take a ruler and look back over the measurements to kind of see exactly what they were. And just yesterday drew the new measurements into this pattern, where you see that I drew lines here for the little creases at the arms for the robe, and these two lines here that kind of make out the flat face. And as you see, I kind of put these little things here to be like the cloak of the robe, and that's where I drew these lines in here, in it, kind of like about inches apart from each other, and according to the measurements I used, and would say that like I came up about 2 inches here to the middle, and about 1 inch up to the side, and about an inch up and an inch up and an inch up and an inch up from here, and kind of made it so that I took this little blank and drew the lines the same way, using the same measurements to the sides. This will be a good reminder of that when it comes the actual time to make the actual figure. But as you also see, I kind of drew another line down the center here, which is kind of what makes out this line down the center to be the middle of the opening of the robe. And for this little line right here, that's what I have for that. And I'd also just say that this little work is just coming a long way, and there's going to be a lot to come in it when it all comes down to it. And would probably also say I've kind of put this with my other holiday scraps, because most of these are probably the Christmas projects, but this project is probably a little bit more oriented with Easter, since it's like Christ risen from the dead. And we'll also just kind of mention, above all other things, that it's kind of like it was good for the Hebrew children display, because there's a place where when the angel comes down to stay with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the furnace, Nebuchadnezzar says in his words that the image that came down from heaven to save them was like the Son of God, which kind of is one of those places where Jesus himself appears in the Old Testament. This was before the time that Jesus came to earth as a baby in the flesh, but he has always existed with God. I mean, for as long as God has existed, which he was never born, always been, always existed, and, you know, and Jesus being at his right hand, Jesus has always existed too. He has always been since before the creation of the earth. He's God himself. He was the creator of the earth himself, and so, of course, he was able to come down as an angel in the Old Testament to do things like be with the Hebrew children in the furnace, and that would also probably be the angel that came down with the sword and talked to Balaam in his talking donkey, where it mentions he is the angel of the Lord. So those are just places in the Old Testament where he kind of appears as a spirit, but we know that later on, like we say, he came to earth as in the flesh as a baby to be a man. And so that was just how we kind of worked out how the project is turning out. And I'd say that I am hoping probably for the next video or two that I do, that I'll be able to show the steps as far as how we carve along this guy. Probably kind of made a little mistaken lines in the back. Probably didn't look at the original one to think we didn't need those, but we've kind of got a long way to come on this. We've got a long way to go. We've got a long way to carve, and this is just one of those things where, you know, we come to see that of different religions and different things people buy. I mean, I've been Baptist all my life, and as for this Christ that is in this picture here, that would probably be a little something that maybe in some Catholic denominations people might purchase. I know that it might even just be part of how they worship and part of their traditions, and it kind of differs just from one to the next. But as for me, you know, I even like those little Dollar Tree figures that are, you know, supposed to be of Jesus. And I'd say none of us really know what he really looked like. None of us really know what God looks like. I mean, there's just no pictures of him that exist from the time he was here on the earth, and so none of us really know what Jesus looked like. But there's places in the Revelation that describe that, and we know he has holes in his hands, he has a spear wound at his side, and when he returns to earth, we have a way of recognizing him. Who else would come on a white horse? Who else would come with angels and trumpets? But I just wanted to share all that information with you just to try to fill in a little bit of extra time for this video, and hope that you all will come on to watch again. I'm just kind of sharing what I believe, and that is just one of those things where I just wanted to tell you all the reason why I like this project, why I like to work on it, and why I hope to make many more for the season that is yet to come. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the series. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. I hope to see you in the next video. Stay tuned.